What's up, everyone? It's your girl Brain Shanae, and today I'll be doing a book review for The Starless Crown by James Rollins. And what I can say is I really enjoyed this book. I was glad that NetGalley was able to, let me read this as I requested it. So I was able to get the audiobook version of it. So I was definitely excited to read this. Bethany from Beautifully Bookish Bethany brought this to my attention, and I was just really intrigued, and I wanted to, read it for myself. So that's why I requested it off of NetGalley. And I will say this book is a tome. It's big, especially for me. It's like around maybe 570 pages worth of a book, which this book comes out today, which is January the 4th. So if you are, if you're interested in this book, I should definitely pick the book up right after you watch this video. So with this book, this is, like I said, it's a tome, but it is also an adult sci-fi fantasy book, which we are in a fantasy world, of course, and I really enjoy this book a lot. It has a great premise. The format, it reminds me of N.K. Jemisin and how it was written, and so I was really intrigued about it. Now, I will say there's a lot of information that is going to be giving you throughout the book. So I did a lot of notes as I was reading this because I didn't want to miss anything as I try to give you my honest review about this book. Now, I will let you know, hands down, I believe I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. I love the book. I just think it had a lot of stuff in it that didn't have to be included, but I still appreciate the book, and I will be getting my copy today. And so for this book, we are following a girl named Nyx. She is 14 years old. She's in this school where there's different tiers that you have to reach at a certain age. But before I even get into that, I will say there are some content warnings of rape in this book. So I do want you to, grasp that as well, that there is some content warnings within this book. But not that we're just following Nyx. At the very beginning of the book, you're going to get a brutal and gruesome description of what is happening, whereas we're introduced to her mother, Nyx's mother, who is in a swamp, and she is pregnant, and she's escaping from someone that we don't know who it is. And so she is in the swamp, and as she is running away, she is giving birth to Nyx. And she really doesn't know if she wants her baby to live or not, due to what she had went through. And Nyx's mother, she is a pleasure serf, which means, she's sexually, a pleasure serf. She pleasures men, and she's a servant. And so we have that. And I think when she was giving birth to her baby, she realized, I don't know if I want my baby to live in this world. And also from the background that I just came from, I don't know if I want my baby to live through this. And so as she's giving birth, she's thinking okay, the baby's going to end up dying with me as well. So as she is giving birth and she's dying in the process, she's also thinking that her child is dying as well. And so that's where it leaves off. Then that's where we have Nyx in the school and all these different tiers. And she's actually become from what her mind is and how she thinks, she has become one of the top students in her class, which a lot of her peers do not like that, which they end up trying to attack her in the process. But as they attack her, things happen. Some people died, but then people think that she might be someone of some kind that is very important to the world. And so that's when we have the king, Azanthia, which is the city, Azanthia. And we have the king pretty much ordering his son, his youngest son, to go to this village to search for what is going on, because as Nyx was having something happen as she was being attacked, I will let you know, she was blind the entire time until after she was attacked. Yes. She was blind all the way up to that very point. Her blindness was just gone. And I think that's what was fantastic to me about this book, is because, okay, we see this blind girl, she's in school, but she's becoming the top student in her class, which I really loved about that, which I enjoyed that a lot. And about how she uses her senses and stuff like that in order to get around. And I really love that. Once again, I love that aspect of this book whatsoever. But then her blindness goes away. And that's when the king hears about this person, about this girl who her blindness just ended up disappearing right after this incident. So that's when he sends his son, Kanth, who is known as the Drunken Prince, to go and see what is going on. And so as Kent goes on to this village, he also brings along Frel, who is an alchemist and also his mentor. So they do end up finding this girl, and they realize that she might be the girl of the prophecy, which I'm not going to give you any spoilers about. I want you to read it to find out for yourself what the girl of prophecy is. But I will say, like, at the very end of this book, or at the very beginning of this book, we realize there's an apocalypse coming. You know, there's like, if this girl does this and this, it's the end of the world. So we have that going on. So the king wants to know more about this, and he wants to know more about how come she was blind and now she's not. And to find out she's very important. Some people want her dead, some people want her alive, some people want to pretty much study her, etc. So as they're at this village, Nyx ends up realizing, like, she was born from, or not born, but she was raised by bats. If you think about what I said before of how her mother gave birth to her in a swamp, bats took her in as their own. And so she was drinking the milk from the bat as she was a baby. And I believe she was in the swamp for maybe 6 months or 6 years. I'm not sure. I think it says 6 moons. So right after those 6 moons, that's when her adoptive dad, who she just calls her father, found her in the swamp right after he lost his wife. But anyway, she was drinking this milk from the bat, and that's what made her blind. And then, like I said, a big event happened in the school, and then she's no longer blind. She can see things, and she can really picture things of how she thought in her mind when she was blind. So I really like that as well. And then it's taking place in a planet that stood rotating. So that's another thing. With the Earth, it stopped rotating. Yes, that's where the sci-fi comes into play along with this fantasy story. So as we are living in the world of Nyx, and she's a student, and we have Canth and Frel going to the village, you also have to keep in mind the Earth is standing still. It does not go, it doesn't move whatsoever. On one side of the Earth, it's nothing but sun, and it's scorched desert, and on the other side it's nothing but darkness and coldness. It's not evened out at all. So one side of the Earth scorched because the sun is right there on that side, and then you just have darkness on the other. And what's interesting is, for the apocalypse, I want to bring up the moon, and why I feel like this reminds me of the Broken Earth trilogy by N.K. Jemisin, is because what brings along the apocalypse is the moon. And they can tell the moon is getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and they're trying to figure out why is this happening? Why is this happening now, after all these centuries, all these years of when the Earth stood still? We've never seen a moon. And so I thought that was very interesting as well. And that's why I said that Nyx is a very important person in this book. But also other people are trying to figure out their other ways in life as well. So we have many characters along with this book, like 3 groups of people that are trying to find artifacts, are trying to figure out why the Earth is ending. It's just really, really interesting. I really enjoy it. So like I said, she's found in the swamp, and she was raised by bats. And so she has a family, she has brothers who are bats. And, as Canth and Frel are on their way to the village, they realize that the bats are about to attack the village, because as Canth and Frel were on their way to the village, they had pretty much captured a bat. And, they find Nyx, and Nyx tells them, like, you need to set the bat free. But then next thing you know, the bat is dead. Now Nyx is saying, okay, you need to give the body to the bat so that it can have a burial, or respective burial. But that didn't happen either. So they're, as Nyx and everyone in her family starts running away, and Canth and Frel know who Nyx is, and what she's destined for, they escape. But in the process, Nyx leaves her family, her father, leaves her father behind, because that's what her father wanted her to do. And so as the king's other son, who is the oldest, who is going to be the king, he is part of this as well. And his agenda is pretty much to kill his brother, because he doesn't want any competition to the throne. He feels like he's a threat to the throne, and even though his brother feels like, I don't want the throne, I don't want anything to do with it, he's Rafe, which is his brother's name, oldest brother's name, doesn't want him to challenge the throne whatsoever. So he feels like he just needs to kill his brother, just period. So we have that, and then on top of that, we have a lot of death that happens within this book. Whereas, you know, people are trying to find Nyx, they're trying to get to anybody and anyone that knows anything about her whereabouts. So as Nyx's father is protecting her, he ends up, you know, dying, along with a lot of her other relatives, including her bat brothers as well. And as they're on this journey, there's a lot of things they get to learn about Nyx, and how Canth. Now here's the kicker. Here's the kicker. So remember how I told you that Nyx's mother is a pleasure serf, but I didn't tell you where she was a pleasure serf or what location. She was the king's pleasure serf, which is Canth and Rafe's father. And so Canth is trying to figure out if Nyx is his sister or not. But then there are rumors of the pleasure serf and a knight of the king actually fall in love with each other. And so we have the knight pretty much going against his vow, and he gets kicked out of the kingdom and is no longer a knight. And then but they say kicked out, but when you read the book, it doesn't seem like he got kicked out. All right. You know, cause it's a little bit mysterious how he gets kicked out. And then also his pleasure serf also runs away from the kingdom. So just keep that in mind when you're reading it. So literally this whole time, Canth is trying to figure out if Nyx is his sister, but then he is starting to have these feelings for her. Even though he feels like she may be his sister, or she might not. And so there's he's growing in love with Nyx. And so there is some love interest, but it's also like, he doesn't know if he can really truly love her, because he doesn't know if she is his sister. And so we end up meeting this knight along the way, and Nyx really, you know, like, okay, she really doesn't want anything to do with him. I'm like, she, you know, she was born, he didn't come rescue her, he didn't raise her, he's just another person to her. So she really doesn't give two craps about him. Pretty much, which is understandable with everything she has gone through, everything she's went through. You know, I'm like, she doesn't care. Maybe one day she'll grow to get to know him, but then again, she doesn't know if he's her father or not, you know? So we have that, and we also have another group of people that we do follow as well. Excuse me. And I said Rafe was was Canth's brother, but that Rafe is actually a different person. So he is like in a different village, and he is in a mine. He's in a mine, and that's when he finds a bronzed woman that he finds in the mines. Now, I do apologize if I confused you. Rafe is not Canth's brother. So I do apologize about that. Rafe is a different person who is also part of the third group that I'm talking about, which he's in a mine, and he finds this girl who is bronzed. And so, like I said, we're in Azanthia. And so he doesn't know who she is, where did she come from, but he feels like he has some type of connection with this bronzed woman who looks like a goddess. And so we have that aspect of it. Now, I will say, when it gets to Rafe and his story and the bronze woman, it can be really confusing. So like, literally, when I was reading or listening to the audiobook, I went back a couple times just to catch it, because you really have to pay attention to the details. But so we have that group right there, and the bronze woman, her name is Shia. That is what Rafe gives her as her name, Shia, instead of calling her the bronze woman. So literally, we have the group where we have the king's oldest son who's trying to kill Canth. So there's two groups, and then you have Rafe and Shia, the bronze woman, and eventually they do come together closer within the end of the book. And that's when things get interesting, of how the bronze woman, or Shia, and Nyx, and also Rafe's new like grandmother, who he didn't know was his grandmother, comes into play, and they were destined to find each other for one simple task. And so at this end, they have a bridal song, something that they are known to do, apparently, that they didn't know about. Like, this is all new to everyone. And so they try to discover certain artifacts, certain things that happen along their journey. And they're trying to look for these artifacts because they want the apocalypse. They want to try to find ways to stop the apocalypse from happening. So you have to keep that in, keep that in your mind as you are reading this book, because you think you're getting lost a little bit, because it's like, okay, what is their mission? And that their literal mission is to try to find a way to stop the apocalypse from happening, because as they're on their mission, you can see the moon come closer and closer and closer. And obviously, if the moon keeps coming closer and closer, it's going to pretty much impact the earth, and just everybody's going to be gone. Everybody, like, human race is going to be extinct. So at the end of the book, we start to realize certain things, that that things can't be saved. So it says no one can save the world, but the world can save it. It says in order to save the world is by destroying the crown. The only way to avoid moonfall, which is what they're calling as the moon is getting closer and closer, the only way to avoid moonfall is by letting the earth spin again. So like I said at the beginning, how the earth is standing still. And so the moon is getting closer. But if they find a way for the moon to continue to find a moon to spin how it's supposed to, that can possibly end the apocalypse, and everything will be come into the moon will stay in its orbit. It won't come any closer. It will stay there, and it will just rotate around the earth as it's supposed to, right? So that's where the sci-fi comes into play of this book. And so it's really good. Like, if you think about everything that I told you so far, it sounds really intriguing, right? Like Nyx, you have Camp wondering if that is his sister. You have Frel, who is Camp's mentor, who is also a big picture in this book as well. So do not sleep on him. He's an alchemist. And then you have Camp's brother, who wants to kill him. So we have a lot going on, but then also it's very intriguing because of the in this book, we have jinns, we have flying ships, we have pirates. And then at the very end of this book, their next task, after they find certain things of what they need to do in order to get the earth spinning again, is they must find the city of angels. So I'm believing that's going to be the second book. But like I said, this book is like a big introduction, but with a lot of action. So I really, really love the aspect of this book. And like I said, the Broken Earth trilogy, like when I'm thinking of this book and how it says Moonfall and it's about the moon, I'm thinking of the Broken Earth trilogy by N.K. Jemisin. It has sort of some of that, the essence of that world in this world. So I really found that very fascinating. But overall, like I said, I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. It's a really, really good book. I will say, like I said, it is a tome, but it is worth the read. Now, I don't have the physical book, but I would recommend the audiobook since I listened to it on audiobook, or better yet, hybrid read. So you can listen to it along with reading the book, like you're reading along. So you have your physical and you have your audiobook. You have your listening to your audiobook and you're following along within the book, which I think that might be better, which you might not really get lost as I did when I just had the audiobook, because I had to keep going back and back and back until I finally understood stuff, because I felt like I was missing things or I didn't catch something because some things weren't making sense, but it finally all came together. But I really, really enjoyed this book. Like I said, it came out today, January the 4th. So you can get your copy today and you can start reading it. It is a new adult sci-fi fantasy series by James Rollins. So definitely go to your indie bookstore or anywhere near you that sells books to get your copy. But that is the gist of my book review. I didn't want to do, have it really spoilery. There are certain things that you still need to find out about, and also to grasp certain things from the book. But I really hope you enjoyed this book review. If you did, please, please, please give me a thumbs up. Also hit that subscribe button and that bell to be notified when I upload more videos in the future. But thank you so much for watching, you guys, and please stay healthy and stay safe. See ya.